I was here to complain about Fish spamming chat about a dead game.
That is partially right. Okay.
Cool.
So, viewers, welcome back to Unorganized Play Table Talk. Today we have from the top, Chris Vaccaro, Chris Wong, and Chris Husnowski. Yes, I know 3 Chris's. It's annoying to keep track of. And I am Jared Reyes, or Panda. Everyone say hi.
Hello.
Hey. So wait, how does he get like a nickname, but the rest of us have to go by our legal names? Like you didn't introduce anyone else as like, oh, that's Chris Chubbs, or
because all he knows how to
is
do is read what's on the screen. You know, whatever you put on the screen, he's gonna read it.
Yeah, it's easier that way. I know
it's not Panda.
I call it, Jared Reyes, aka Panda, aka J-Rude, aka whatever other Asian thing you can think of. We just discussed if I was Asian or not.
Or for $5 on Fiverr, you can call him anything you want.
$10. I don't sell my identity that cheap.
It doesn't work that way. You can play Overwatch with people and try to carry them for $5.
Oh, did you read that article? How fucking cringy is that?
What happened? What article?
Money right there.
So there's an article on Kotaku about how this dude was paying chicks to play Overwatch with him. And he was paying them like $5 for 5 matches each, and they each of them would like play Mercy, and he would play like the tank, like he would play like Roadhog, whatever the hell he was playing. It was just like, you know how it's like want to buy pocket heals. This guy, he just took it to the next level by legitimately renting women to play Overwatch with him and heal him. I'm sorry, it's just terrible.
But they all did well. According to the article, they were really good at what they did.
According to the article, they were actually good players, and I looked one of them up, and one of them actually is a pro, like a semi-pro Overwatch player,
like top 500 style Overwatch player.
Like not on like Team Liquid, but definitely like an actually good ranked player. So
gives new definition to the girlfriend experience for sure.
Oh, God.
Wait, did the servers come with like messages, like cheer up messages? You can do it.
Yeah, no, that's it. They were like encouraging him like over chat, and look, you got to read it.
It's good. They do their jobs, but it's a really good article because it proves that you pay $5, you get exactly what you ask for. And I mean, like if you're asking for pocket heals, they're guaranteeing pocket heals, so you can't even claim like false advertising for the stuff that they say.
Something I should look into. But anyways,
back on topic.
Chubbs, you usually can keep us in track. So what is today's topics?
Oh, good. Oh, I get to keep you guys on track. I don't know if I want to drive this fucking train.
You usually drive it anyway.
So anyway, Gen Con events got released today as we were recording this on May 14th. Who knows when it will be released, but
the following week. It's the following week. Don't worry about it.
So we're gonna talk a little bit about Gen Con and all the years that we've been going, and just talking about the schedule that came out, just our first impressions, and maybe a few tips on how to navigate that schedule. And we're also going to transition that into talking about some out-of-print games. So that's what we have on the docket. So what was your guys' impression of the event list that came out for Gen Con today?
All right, wait, before we start, let's give them let's inform the audience if they don't know. You say Gen Con, it's like, what is Gen Con? Gen Con is North America's largest tabletop gaming convention.
If
tabletop.
If you are watching this video, anybody who's watching this video now, I'm breaking the fourth wall. I'm talking to you directly. If you do not know what Gen Con is, I want you to post in the comments, all right? And when we have no comments, I want Jared to know how stupid he is.
Do we even get comics to begin with? Honestly, it's still starting up. So
we will now. I'll comment just to say Jared.
Don't say that. That is a bad. That's like, even if like you get like 3 viewers, don't be like, oh well, to our 3 viewers. It's like the first thing in comedy they tell you. It's like, if you have 2 audience members and you point out there's 2 audience members, fuck you. You're an idiot. Just people will comment, and well, people won't comment because everyone knows what friggin' Gen Con is if they're here watching a channel about fucking card games and Gen Con.
Or possibly in the title of the video, it'll say Table Talk and Gen Con.
I was always talking about just assume that the audience doesn't really know anything.
They may have been looking for people talking about nice kitchen tables, but somehow, a Gen Con table is Gen Con. This must be a good French friggin' table.
Okay.
On Fiverr, I will make your Gen Con schedule for you. You want to buy pocket heals, I can buy you a Gen Con schedule, but just know that I'm going to be signing up for L5R in your name just to collect more box sets.
That's true.
All right.
That's another thing.
To bring us back into it, we're talking about a very big convention that gets sold out relatively quickly, and today the events came out. The events sell out really quickly.
Yes.
There we go.
Badges never sell out. There'll always be badges, no matter what. Hotel and events, that's a different story. But today we're talking...
Also, there's another thing that is very important that gets sold out very fast, and if you do go to Gen Con, that you have to act immediately when you get there. Scotty's Brewhouse dice giveaway. If you go there and you order something off of their regular menu, they will not give you a dice. But if you order off of their special menu, which is their regular menu renamed, and you're one of the first 50 customers, they will give you a dice. Sorry, Ray.
Anyway, we are talking specifically about booking events in advance because all of us know as veterans to this convention, if you don't buy the events in time, there is a very small chance you will have those events day of. So, everyone's experience at events. Go for it.
Who's starting?
Hodge.
I'll take it. Well, he gave the ball to Hodge.
Hodge spoke, so go.
Okay, so what do you want to know? Just signing up for events, or
how's the system? What is the Gen Con system for events?
All right, so the system is both much improved, and it also contains a flaw that I absolutely hate, being a player of games that typically are tournaments for all day. So just how the system has improved over the years, the Gen Con website has obviously gotten better since 2004, which was when me and a couple other people started going, where you can actually, sort by RPG or tabletop game or card game, or basically search for anything that you want underneath the sun. And as of right now, the events aren't live. What it is right now is essentially like a wish list. You can add it to your cart, and then as soon as the events go live, you can buy those tickets. Now, just because it's in your cart or your wish list doesn't mean that you're going to get it. It just, means that it's on your wish list. Good thing about the system is also you're able to add friends to basically your booking. Now, this doesn't really matter so much for card players or tabletop players, but for people who play RPGs and things of that nature, and you want to buy up a table as a group, you can now go in and buy, I think it's for you and 4 friends. So it's essentially like you can purchase 5 tickets and you can all go to that same event. The thing that is the downside to that, though, if you buy a ticket to an event in your name and your friend's name in that same spot, your friend cannot book anything during that time limit. So where you're going to get into a big kind of conundrum for this is where if you play any Fantasy Flight games, because their tournaments are slated to go about 12 hours every day. So if you buy yourself a ticket for Netrunner, Game of Thrones, L5R, X-Wing, Armada, Imperial Assault, they own tons of intellectual property. But if you buy a ticket to any one of these events, you will not be able to purchase a ticket in your name for any other event during that day. And if you say you're going 0-3 in a tournament and you want to drop and go do something else, well, you can't have pre-purchased tickets to other events during that same day, and that's kind of a detriment. But the system is much better, is where you can actually get tickets to events, because I remember back in 2005, I actually wound up leaving Gen Con because we signed up, or the group collectively signed up for Netrunner tournaments and Star Wars tournaments, and I didn't pre-purchase my tickets, so I went to show up to buy into a tournament. Couldn't get in, and the tournaments ran all day, so my friends were gone all day, so I decided, screw it. Wandered around the dealer's hall, then I got drunk and wandered off to the state fair. So that was probably closest hostile moment in my life too. I felt like I was going to die, but I made it. But yeah, that's basically the gist of ticket buying.
Yeah. So as I was actually looking through the events, Now, if you go, those of you who go to Gen Con, if you do put the wish list now and schedule events, you can actually put it on your wish list. It's when you start going to pay for it is when they'll stop you and saying you have conflicting schedules. So I just did that now. I booked 2 events that were on Thursday, and one of them is a large scale event that ends around, they say 8 p.m., which I doubt I'll be around for that point. But it allowed me to also book another event for Thursday at 5. So those of you doing who might be doing it now, be warned. Once you start to buy these tickets, you might be stopped midway, and that might cost you some time. Because once you hit that queue wish list and buy, you are now online with everyone else who wants the same events, and stopping for even a moment might just put you so far back in line. The event you might have wanted will get sold out. So
push that process wish list button, and then you wait.
You pray to God. You're praying to God.
You pray to God, Shiva, whatever you want to pray to. A number pops out. You're 12,000 in line. You're now waiting, and it'll show you. To its credit, this system is actually pretty good in terms of telling you exactly how long you have to wait. So, like, you see your number slowly going down and slowly going down. And I believe it actually shows you if your events sell out while you're waiting, too.
Yeah, it does.
If I remember that correctly. But I really do like that about the system. I know it's kind of like you're the downside of not getting an event, but at the same time, it's, the uncertainty of, should I refresh my computer? Should I reboot? Should I reload the page? I don't know if this connection's working. Am I actually going anywhere, or am I just wasting my time? That uncertainty personally drives me nuts. So the fact that they put that there kind of calms the paranoia.
Wong, how's your event procuring experiences over the past? Actually, how many years have we gone to Gen Con? This is going to be my 11th. Chubbs, how many?
12.
12. Wong?
Over 13.
Less than 5 for me.
And Hodge?
Chris, I think it's 13. We started going in 2004. That's when we were driving out with John's mom.
Yeah, all I know is I got one more year than you guys, because there was a year where I went without you because somebody didn't plan for some reason when I was going separate. That was the only time. I think Larry's got more, though. I think Larry was going like 2 years before me. So I think he's like the senior person of how many Gen Cons, but essentially we've all been going.
Shall not speak.
Yeah, we've all been going for.
Larry's always mentioned in this spot.
That's true. But going back, with wishlisting, it's about the same as was mentioned by everyone else. My wishlisting experience is literally just hunting for RPGs. Our group already probably knows that. In fact, it's a pretty good segue to how we deal with it, especially considering that it's my turn to take a look at it. I deal primarily with RPGs. That's my jam. I love playing RPGs. And every year, one of the things that sells out the most are usually Call of Cthulhu sessions. And they sell out with good reason. I mean, it's Call of Cthulhu. You can't go wrong with that property. So, that being the case, it's my job to make sure that the group are all added as friends, which is a pro move. Barring, of course, conflicting schedules, to make sure everyone gets their chance to play. We like buying out tables. That being the case, I only handle, for the most part, RPGs. If there's maybe a Netrunner tournament, Game of Thrones, a couple of card games, or other games that are obscure that haven't been taken care of, either I take care of it myself or another person in the group takes care of it. So then we have designated folks in our team who are there to buy up tickets for someone else and try to coordinate. So I use this event time, this preview time, to take a look at what is currently up for Wave 1. It's also important to notice that this is Wave 1. There will be another wave in the future that will open up possibilities. So you might have something that gets sold out the first time around, but then they open up another. Like, for example, last year, first wave Call of Cthulhu stuff, all wiped out. And then they were like, hey, guess what, guys? We're creating extra Call of Cthulhu sessions. And I was like, click, buy everything. So that's another thing to take notice of. Another reason why this is important, especially to our viewers, is we as a group have also noticed that the same thing happens when it comes to gamers and or people attending Gen Con or hoping to attend Gen Con, but are not as tolerant about having to wait and or deal with certain situations. For example, you don't get your hotel in downtown Indy. Oh, well, most people are like, screw Gen Con this year, I'm not going to go. Or people go, my event is sold out, I'm not going to go. but you have time. You don't know if more tickets are going to open up. You don't know if other events are going to be there as well. You don't know if a hotel's going to have a drop, or even if the first event that you're waiting for, by the time the second wave come through, open up. And so it comes out to be a matter of patience. And it's like, in the first place, if you're going to Gen Con to game, you're going for the experience. Everything else is just a bonus. I mean, like, you get in, you don't, but most times, well, it is what it is, and I guess its mileage may vary depending on the type of person you are going to these events. In our particular experiences, we're going for the experience with our group. We're going to bond. We're going because every year it never gets boring because we always try out something new. So regarding the wish list, this is the best time for us to plan. This is the best time for me to plan, looking for RPGs, scrolling through everything, trying to figure out what I do or don't want to do. And it gives me a 2-week buffer to coordinate with my team to get things done. Lastly, in part of that, how we coordinate is, on our end, we try using Google Docs. And it's pretty easy. Just set up your team, set up how many folks are going with you, and just write your schedules out. And then write out another tab, like who's interested in what. XYZ, everyone puts on their list. If anyone has any questions, just refer back to the Google Doc, the sheet, make edits as necessary, contact your group, and then just start off from there. But yeah, that's pretty much my experience with the wish list.
I want to piggyback off of that. And you're talking about all this stuff that you're saying is pro moves. Another pro move, and it's something I've yelled at certain people in our group before, book your own events. Plan your own schedule. Don't go into Gen Con kind of like, oh, yeah, Drew's going to book it for me. Yeah, whatever. I'm doing whatever the schedule he tells me to do. No, that's not, you just rob yourself of the Gen Con experience. So plan it out with your group. If you want to be in this event that they're doing, talk to them about it and make sure that you're secured on that. What other stuff you want to do and see what's there? Do your homework. Do your research beforehand. And don't just rely and assume that something's going to happen, because otherwise you're just going to miss out on an event because it's sold out. And you relied on somebody else to get you a ticket, and maybe they couldn't get it to you. You never know. Just when it comes to this, it's better to fail yourself than to rely on somebody else who's probably going to fail for you.
So, so for those of you, for those first-time Gen Con goers, we're talking about events and tickets of being sold out. How the Gen Con system works was pretty unique. Every single event they'll do for those 4 days are listed, categorized, and what you can do is you can buy a ticket that specifically states, I'm here for this event, for this day, for this time. Now, and that will secure you a spot in that event. Now, they do sell generic tickets, which are basically $2 tickets. Each ticket's $2 a piece. That can go for anything. But the problem is, what they do in Gen Con is they make sure they put up 2 lines. Those who have the specific tickets will take 1 line, and they will prioritize those guys. And at the end of that line, if no one shows up, then they'll start adding anyone with generic admission tickets. So what we do always is make sure we have the ticket that says we're here for this event, because that's exactly what we want to do at this time frame. So so all of us are veterans to this place. From like 2007 was my first one. There were events that you can easily go to with generic tickets and just say, all right, I can squeeze in an event here or there. But as it's gone, as conventions have gotten more popular over the years, doing that has gotten harder. So, for all of you who want to go to Gen Con or who are going to Gen Con for your very first time, this is the stuff that we're passing on to you that you should definitely key in on. And we have definitely, all these strategies are like the best way to get the most out of your experience. How I do it is, I always write down the 4 days and itemize, like, I want to do this, this, and this for this long a time. And the best part about it is the entire events list is listed from when it starts, when it finishes. So you can map out an entire day. And
just
Hodge?
a real quick question. Should we tell them how to get to get to your cart and how to make a wish list on this video, or no? Go to gencon.com, create an account.
I think it's pretty straightforward.
We'll give it the TLDR version. TLDR version is, hopefully, if you folks are going to Gen Con and you can navigate a website, and we're really hoping you can on this one, taking the kitty gloves off on this.
We just want to be fair for everyone. Maybe there's somebody that
if they got their passes and they got their hotel space, they know how to navigate Gen Con website. That's if they can't do events. Yeah, it's like it's a miracle they got the first 2 done.
But still, just to do it, there's a find events button on the left-hand corner that you'd be able to find. Alternatively speaking, that's usually the rawest way of looking at it. So that's like looking at raw data on the matrix. And if you're not used to that, there is a very, very convenient sheet that's usually offered or translated, which is the Gen Con High Programmer, which at one point, one of us will go ahead and link on the video below so that you'll be able to view it, and you can just control F your life away to be able to find the events that you want to. And at that point, just match it up by the ID, go to the Gen Con website, correspond with it, and work from there.
See, that wasn't hard. Just saying.
That's what I'm saying. That was pretty easy.
As long as it's the TLDR version, because this shouldn't be a tutorial on how to use Gen Con's website.
Look, I was just trying to help out, okay? You know, just totally.
We really do think so low of our viewers. You're a dumbass? You've come here to learn how to eat.
Some people need to know that, Chris. Some people need to know.
Yourself in the eye.
I'm going to be with Jared on this one. Some people need to know.
It's like, I never knew that about eating. This is amazing.
I'm a Darwinist.
What's next on the docket?
So one of the things that booking the events, you know, like this whole thing is, you know, I've been going for over a decade. So the first few years, I never really had to do this. I used to be able to just buy generic tickets and just go to events. So like, as it's grown, it's gotten more popular. But I mean, it also could be the part that when I used to go to Gen Con, I only played like really one game, which was WARLORD Saga of the Storm by AEG. It's basically D&D, the card game, if in the simplest terms. And we've talked about it a few times on these talks. But I played, my whole trip would essentially be that. And now I've learned the golden rule of Gen Con, which is don't always just play the one thing, you know, play other different events as well. But the one thing about WARLORD, and that is going to work as a transition for here, is that it is now an out-of-print game. It's not been produced or printed by AEG, Phoenix Interactive, who had it for a bit, any of those companies for a couple of years now, maybe 5 years or so. But even still, there's always one tournament of WARLORD Saga of the Storm at Gen Con, and it's kind of like a reunion to get back together with the community and, you know, sling some dice, sling some cards, and, you know, relive the golden days of the game. And we've noticed that there's a lot of out-of-print games, quote-unquote dead games that we play, so in that hold dear, that are like, you know, that we hold dear. So we wanted to talk about the idea of out-of-print games and just a lot of the aspects of it. So, I mean, I've already talked about how I play WARLORD. Is there any other out-of-print games that you guys are into right now?
Not particularly into. I know one of ours does play it, and I used to play it when it was in print, and that was Conquest. Warhammer Conquest. Warhammer 40k Conquest that was brought by FFG, which was one of the best mechanical games that had existed in a while. It was very fun to play. Unfortunately, because of, I believe, don't quote me correctly on this, but hearsay and based on the way I'm interpreting it, GW Games Workshop and FFG didn't exactly agree eye to eye on certain licensing, and it just kind of, their license ellipsed.
What really happened was Games Workshop wanted FFG to stop producing mini games. This is again the hearsay. But they wanted FFG to stop putting out mini games, and you may have heard of one of FFG's mini games. It's called X-Wing. So they kind of laughed at GW and said, "No, this is kind of our bread and butter." And GW was like, "Fine," and then they pulled the license, and the game died.
The game was cut, yeah.
The game was cut.
They cut the life support on.
The other theory is that GW just really wanted to go into board games and make their own board games, so they're going to need to pull that license to make a Warhammer board game or something like that. That's another, the rumor mill that we hear. The less volatile rumor that's out there, but,
But relating back to it, Conquest was held very, very dear by its community. People play on an Octagon. Octagon being a third-party tabletop simulator for certain games, and that game completely lives on there, and people play internationally left and right. I know Russia has a huge scene for it as well. A lot of folks also North America, one of our own, also played it dearly, and unfortunately, it just happened to die. It just went out of print either, I should say. That being the case, the community did not stop. They have a very active Facebook community. More so than that, I heard that they just started creating new content and cards. So much so that people still play with it. And a lot of times, this also will segue into a couple of other games, which are when the community wants a game to live, the community pretty much makes the game live no matter what. Another good example of this is the game that I hold dear, which is Vampire: The Eternal Struggle. And for me, that game was originally, as background for that, it was Richard Garfield's second game right after Magic. It was brought to them right after Vampire the Masquerade became a big thing, and Richard Garfield was like, well, I want to create this game that I wanted to improve on Magic, or at least give it another shot. Created the game ran, but it had a very niche community. It's like vampires, all right, no problem. It wasn't as big as Magic or as you're covering, but it ran. It ran for a while under Wizards of the Coast before it got picked up later by White Wolf itself. I believe the game ran up until 2010, and what had happened was they didn't print it anymore, but the community kept on going. And more so than that, they had a good team of designers. They started putting out PDF expansions that the community accepted, and all you had to do was either print it out on good cardstock or just print it out and just put it on a sleeve and play with it. And because of the passion of the community worldwide, the game just never ended, and it was noted as, I would say like tournament legal. It would just be, it's still out there. More so, what makes it exciting for me is that recently, especially as of May 14th, there was a huge event that's being held. World of Darkness Berlin just passed by, and it was officially sanctioned White Wolf event, along with a couple of folks from ONYX Path, which are I would say the fraternal company that also runs that, or has access to the Vampire world or whatever, mentioned that the game had brought out an anthology set that was printed out. They actually printed out an anthology set of like great cards from previous sets, and it just goes to prove that parent companies are looking down and going like, we definitely approve of the community doing this. So who knows, it may or may not revive the game itself under a parent company again. It might get actually printed, and if it doesn't stop the community from playing. It doesn't stop new people from getting involved. Another game as well, Doomtown. Doomtown was a game that was recently revived under AEG, and it was part of their card game as well. And that game played beautifully. It was, and also, especially if you're familiar with Deadlands RPG or even the setting itself, that game ran its course until AEG decided they no longer wanted to carry it, or rather.
It came back like last year at last Gen Con, and even I couldn't find a way, or is it 2 Gen Cons ago? Either way,
about 2 Gen Cons ago.
2 Gen Cons ago. I tried, when I heard about the game, I was like, oh, this is neat, but it had a big following that I couldn't find a person to help me teach that. There was no free play game tutorial available at Gen Con for anyone who wanted to learn how to play. Those who already knew more or less that game already scooped it up, and me trying to find an AEG employee to teach me that game was like, yeah, no, we're busy, we can't do that. And I'm surprised, a year or two later, they pulled the plug on it again.
There's a couple of things that happened because of it, yeah. But to bring back the original point of this game, I know that the community did not want it gone. I didn't want it gone, and in fact, I hear that there's a revival somewhere along the way. I forget if there's a company behind it, and I apologize to the viewers for not knowing offhand, but I'm pretty sure there is one, and we'll do the research for it, and if we find it, we'll go ahead and we'll post that up in the links below. That they want to pick it up and just continue where AEG left off. The system was mechanically sound for the most part, and they just want to go ahead and create more expansions for it, and or bring the game back. And that's awesome. That goes to show that sometimes a game is not the manufacturer that puts it out. Sometimes a game literally is the community that keeps it running. Chubbs, I think that you may have some knowledge, or at least about another game, which was Star Wars, the Decipher version, and folks that actually know that, might play it.
I do. A good buddy of mine who I met playing actually the other out-of-print game, WARLORD, Chris Schoenthal. He's he's the reigning North American champion of Game of Thrones as well. But he was on the player committee for the Star Wars game after it got dropped. And again, I haven't had a chance to talk to him. I meant to talk to him before we got online for this chat, but I know, because I don't know what's still going on with it, but I don't know if it's still going on to this day. It's something we got to check out. But I know at one point, him and a few other people were essentially producing new sets in PDF format that you would be able to print and play. Erratas of old cards, so like you can literally just put a little slip of over the text box of an old card in a sleeve, and now you have a brand new card. And they were having big tournaments still and drawing out, huge numbers at these events. I've actually just when Christian, although he's from California, Southern California, so he was having some tournaments out here locally in New Jersey. Just that's where the community felt was a midpoint to travel to. And if he's on the East Coast, it's like, okay, I'll drive down, hang out with you for a bit, just to kind of see you. And I'd go into these events, and the place was packed, and like it was like a con experience. Like they were running these full legit events, and I mean, at one point they were even having the actress the model who did Myra Jade, like some kind of inspiration art that is known because that's a beloved character in the Star Wars universe. I hope I said her name right. But either way, they actually commissioned the actress to come, or the model to come and do a personal appearance at this card game event. So like it was a serious run show, and like it goes to show you that even though there was the company didn't do anything to support them. I mean, I don't know how much the involvement was or if they gave blessing or not, but it was really just run by the community itself, and people were flying out from Australia to come to this event. So that's not something to take lightly, and it's pretty impressive for a game that was out of print for many, many years at the time. So that's another example to show, maybe companies aren't as important to a game's life as if you got if you just got even a small group of your friends like love this one game that hasn't been around for a while. There's nothing stopping you guys from buying up all these products for dirt cheap and playing it. So that's it's the blessing and the curse of the out of print game. When it's out of print, you can usually get the product easily, and you can usually just proxy up cards and still play it. But it's very rare to get a huge event, something like on the scale of Gen Con. Like a Game of Thrones tournament, a Destiny tournament, L5R, what have you, for all these big events that are coming out.
Hodge, do you have any input in the subject?
Oh boy, so many out of print games. I feel like this is almost a synopsis on AEG games.
Yeah.
That's I'm not sure what they do as a company, but they usually have really good ideas, and for whatever reason, the games just don't stick. Back in 2005, 6, 7, 8, they used to have this card game called Spycraft, and I would play it religiously. In fact, they had an event where essentially, if you won the tournament, you got to make a card of yourself, basically whatever you wanted on it, but it was of a very particular persona in the game. And we had like 3 local tournaments. Like one we had in New Jersey, one was in New York City, and the third was down in I think it was like in the Philadelphia area, may have been like Cherry Hill. I remember winning all 3 of them and just making cards of myself. And that wasn't even the important part. The important part was you got to use these cards to get into a larger tournament in Gen Con back in like 2005, 2006, right in that range. And it was a really good game, solid mechanics. In fact, it had a lot of similar mechanics to how Conquest eventually was working. It was like, you would go to the first location, you can extend to the second location and things like that. Rules aside, which were pretty good, they released a base set and then they had an expansion. And then the wheels kind of came off when they released a new faction, and the new faction was the franchise. Thank you. It was essentially a faction of all overpriced guys, and there was a stupid combo. It was literally one combo of cards where it was like you were able to drop like an extremely overpriced guy on like turn 1 and just send them into every mission and just win and extend to the next mission and win and extend to the next mission and win. So much so, I remember playing in a tournament it was 2006 Gen Con, and round 1 I played against the combo, round 2 I played against the combo, round 3 I played against the combo, round 4 I played against the combo, And round 5, when I was 0-4, I played against the same combo again. So there was a 0-4 version of that same exact combo. It was so bad, and it literally killed I stood up at one point in time when I went 0-5, stood up, and I'm not known for being calm. We'll just throw that out there. Took all of my cards, chucked it halfway across the well, at that time the card hall was much smaller, but chucked it halfway across the card hall and said, whoever wants this can take it. So that was a dead game that I loved, and you could never find anyone to play that with you, because it's just, unless you outright say you stop using cards from this point in time, you know what your opponent's playing, and it's terrible, and it destroyed the game.
The issue with Spycraft, I would say, is because it was a short-lived game. It only lasted a year or two, so it didn't have, like, Warlord. It lasted 10 years before it went out of print officially. So, there was, a lot of built-up sentimental value among its players. Like,
true.
There's just not the card pool in Spycraft to be able to kind of carry something.
Like, what was
because I see.
No, continue.
I see the artwork. So basically what happened is, I guess AEG sold the artwork and licensed the artwork out, and now I see it all over a ton of different games spread out through like 4 or 5 different kind of like cyberpunk genres of things. Like, I'll every once in a while like be flipping through something and be like, oh hey, that's a guy from Spycraft. Crap, what's he doing here? And it's like just one guy, and then you like go like 3 or 4 games down the line, there's a different one. But with out of print game, go ahead. Before I start rambling about the next one, go on.
Yeah, Jared, give some input.
Well, because I have as much of a lengthy experience with playing games and card games as you guys. Warlords was the biggest card game I got into, and that's why that's the one I'm most sentimental into. With as a kid, I played a bunch of like other anime-style card games that just didn't stick. Like Duel Masters had a following. Yeah. Like I demoed it. I was like, "Hey, this is pretty cool. There's an anime. I'm gonna play it." And then it died out. No one wanted to play it. I was like, I still have Yu-Gi-Oh and Warlords to keep me occupied. But when I have to say my very first big card game relationship would have to be Warlords, because it was a great game, it had a great community, and I'm still I was confused the first time the game was dropped, only have it to be brought back again by a different company, and then that company unfortunately didn't do so well with it, and then now it's back to being a memory of so long ago. So and it's interesting how either a company doesn't believe in the game, or it just simply somehow they tank it themselves. How games end up falling into that type of thing, even though there's such a high demand by its own player base saying, please don't cut it off just yet. There's still room for it. Just like your Spycraft conundrum, it's like AEG could have simply found a way like to say, all right, that was a mistake. Let's try this again. How would you have felt? Like, how did you think that it should have been handled way back when, if you had a forethought?
Yeah. So if I was on a development team, or because I know like AEG was good with like the Temple of Lore with Warlords and them listening to people and actually making change. But in Spycraft, all they had to do was like errata, like 3 or 4 cards, or just ban or restrict, kind of like how it's done in Netrunner from Fantasy Flight Games, where if they unintendedly make a combo that's just too strong, they just keep hitting it with the Nerf hammer until, like, they don't need to ban a card, they just kind of balance it back out and put it back, release another set. Like, another set could have easily balanced it out if they just put some sort of workaround tools to get around the combo. It's not hard to fix a mistake. And I think that's a thing that many game companies just don't realize or don't do. And it's really dumb, because if you have a good game, you have solid rules. There's no reason, and there's one thing that's just destroying the community or destroying the game, or just too prevalent. See patches in Hearthstone. You fix it. You release a patch, you release a FAQ, an update, anything, and it just fixes the problem. Like, there's no need to just hit the kaboom button versus, okay, let's get somebody intelligent in here to test a rule. That's it.
That's also happened a lot, though, in the past. Like, now it's easier to deal with because I guess people are more cognizant of the fact that you should do it. More commonly, you'll probably see it in Magic, especially when they start doing it in cycles.
Oh,
and
yeah, Magic.
In their previous cycles, like where everything was just... almost anything went. You had to put hard brakes on stuff. But you take a look at earlier games as well, and bringing it back to AEG. Personally, as an aside, so we'll add a little insert here. AEG is great with board games. We love AEG board games. They bring out a lot of IPs out there that are also great. They also handled L5R for a while. And it's probably the only thing they hung on to for as long as possible. What they're not good at sometimes is, well, not most of the time, if you take a look at all the other AEG games that we just run off of, where that they're just not supported as well. They don't support it as well, either because they don't have the stock, they don't have the demand, or not the demand, they just don't have the supply to bring it out, or they don't have the right teams to take care of it. Another game that was an AEG game, 7th Sea. Believe it or not, 7th Sea was also a card game. And what ended up happening to it?
It died.
That's up until a faction took a hit. One way or another, one faction took a hit, a character either died or got introduced, and...
Wait. So is AEG like the Fox network of card games? Is that what we're saying?
Yeah. I think so. I think that's an accurate way of actually putting it.
AEG is like 2 seasons and gone. It's like, god damn it, I love that show.
That's literally what happened.
What's their tagline? We make fun? You make fun. What's the second sentence? For only about a couple of years. And then we'll pull the rug out for one of the years.
But that's something that happens, and nowadays you don't see that as much, and hopefully games have the potential of coming back, and that happens to be a new thing. There's a lot of resurgence of IPs that are coming back, and I don't think it's just card games. It applies to movies, it applies to books, it applies to everything, but I think that card games in particular, now that people see the potential for growth in it, and people enjoy what the current state of gaming, especially card gaming, is, that we might see stuff coming back. In my particular case, I'm happy with Vampire, the Eternal Struggle, coming back. It's always been there, so I'm just got to clarify that for folks that are fans of it. Like, I completely respect and see that it's always been there. I was happy enough to find more information on it, finding out how active the community is. It's like a worldwide community. It's really, really huge, and those tournaments are no joke. And like watching it and seeing it in play and seeing that there's enough stock out there that you could just go on eBay and purchase it, or you could just buy it anywhere, or even then your community just has so much overstock that you could just get involved and play it, but it's still out there, and that there's a very, very real possibility in the future we'll be seeing perhaps an official release from the company in terms of just bringing it back as totally imprint. And so that means the dream's alive for a lot of things.
And I think
dream's alive for a couple of things. It just depends who's willing to pick it up and who's willing to put the time into it.
Like what you said, when you found out Vampire: The Eternal Struggle came back, you instantly told all of us to play it. Like, whether we liked it or not, it's like,
and we all play it.
Yeah, and we now all play it. It's like, for those except for Chubb, he still hasn't played it yet.
Not yet. Eventually, I will.
Because the designer was originally from Magic. It feels like a game of Commander for those who have played Magic Commander. It has to be a table of at least 4 to 5. What's the max size? A table size?
Min size is 3. Tournament max is 5. So usually 5-player pods.
So it's like a 5. It's like a 5 free for all. But the only thing is, you have to attack the person to your left. That was your only your only real target. And so you have this nice dichotomy of like, I'm gonna aim from the guy to my left. I have to watch the guy out for my right. And then my allies are the people across from me that I can't kill just yet. So they're temporarily my allies, so I have to somehow play it the best I can while sandwiched between an enemy and an ally at this point. And you showed it to us. It was actually... there's a lot more in-depth of this game that we can go through all night, but it was a very fun game that you welcomed us to, and the fact that it was a dead game, it was supposedly a dead game. All the cards were available to us. Like, you had every single card we'd probably ever need for that game, and you now have access to more. So none of us have to actually purchase a product. You just, hey, I want to build this. Build this for me, and we can play. And then that was the best way to pick that game up. So
yeah, that's another thing as well. Because I think that that was an intro game for the group. I personally invested in the game itself, and I was like, all right, I'm just going to teach it to these guys, and later on, if they want to invest more, they can. But for now, I have more than enough variety so that people can play it, learn the game, get involved in it, like it. And I think the same thing has happened as well, because we'll bring it back to Warlord, which is, I never got to really play Warlord. I know my brother ended up playing Warlord. I know you guys ended up playing Warlord a lot more than I did. But I know that our local comic book shop has started to bring it back, even for nostalgia purposes. But I play it. I sit down and I play. I have the understanding mechanics. I find it enjoyable. But that's another thing. That's how you build and keep your community alive. If you have overstock of cards, if you want to play the game, bring it back up to your community. Start playing it again. Bring it up. Another big important thing. You have a game that you love, that you hope didn't die, or you no longer in print, but you want to find out more information about it. Reach out to... if you're looking for stock, eBay. Looking for stock, other stores. Looking to even meet up with people, Meetup. Meetup actually worked for me. I researched. I tried finding local communities. You could either find them through forums, or on my particular end, I ended up finding through Meetup. I found out that the VTES Vampire Eternal Struggle had a great community over in New York, led by Adam Hulse, who was the community organizer there, and he welcomed me along with his group. With open arms, and it's literally like being able to play against more people. And what makes it better is that not only you play with your local meta, but you go out and reach out to other metas as well that still do exist, and keep the game going that way. So if you're playing with groups and you're tired of your local store, or you want to bring your local store to other locations, feel free to go ahead and reach out. Check your options out. Check out meetups. Check out Facebook groups. Check out Twitter if possible with the right hashtags. Check out certain Reddit threads. And just go reach out and see. Chubbs, on your end, do you have any other games outside of Warlord that you liked, that you would like brought back and or play?
Not necessarily that I want to bring back, but I will talk about one that I see it now at Gen Con when I go, and it gets me really excited that I see it. Like when I was younger, like maybe I was 10 years old, I used to collect Dragon Dice, an old TSR game. And anybody who's played Dungeons and Dragons know who TSR is, or has played it back in the day, I should say. Like they were the Dungeons and Dragons company, but they had a game called Dragon Dice, and I remember I had the yellow TSR bag carrying all my dice with me.
I love that game so much.
I never actually sat down to play it. Like I always just messed around with it a little bit. I remember I learned how to play it. I never really learned the rules, but every now and then while walking through Gen Con, I will see a booth that's carrying it, and I'm like, oh my god, it's like so awesome.
This year, I'm gonna buy a ton of it with you. I'm not even joking. We're gonna go there. I'm just gonna buy, because I have I think I had sea elves or something. It was like the blue and green. I remember having the same TSR bag. Mine was dark blue with almost green, and I had a bunch of elves. I keep going. I'm sorry. Go.
Had the undead. They were like the charcoal with the green. The Amazons. They were like the white with the purple. They were. I only bought them because they were the coolest dice, and I just liked to collect it. But I was also starting to get into that nerd culture with Dungeons and Dragons, and it's like, oh my god, this is awesome. But my current DM of our regular game, he has tons of it in his basement, and he always threatens to pull it out every now and then. So, that's a game that, I think it's still around. If there's booths at Gen Con that are still carrying it, it's usually a means as a community for it. Something I have to look into, so, or as Hai says, maybe in August we're going to buy a whole bunch of it for ourselves, and then start looking into that community.
And we will play it on this channel.
We'll make it happen.
We will bring it back on this channel.
I mean, that is a good thing. And tying it back to Gen Con as well, these games that we're talking about as well that may or may not be out of print, depending, quote unquote, you could take the time to take a look for it. I didn't know personally as well that VTES apparently had their own scene as well at Gen Con, and there are seats for it, and there are tournaments for it as well. And I bet you anything there's going to be tournaments for a game that you thought might not be there. I definitely knew for Warlord because of the Chubbs and the community as well. And that's the one I knew about, but that's because I just thought it's just tradition for these guys. But I never applied it on a macro level to believe that other games also had the same type of fervor or the same type of reunions when playing. So if that's another thing you guys are interested in, and you are going to Gen Con, before you do, take your time now on your event viewer that maybe that event might be listed now. And if not, then it'll probably be listed on the second wave on a date which is yet to be determined, which we'll probably revisit the moment that it does become available for the viewing audience.
Yeah, that's the best part about Gen Con. When they say the best 4 days in gaming, they are not lying. For the next 4 days, any game you probably have heard of, never heard of, there is a great chance that there is a slot, at least 1 hour slot, where that game is being played because people love that game and someone is dedicated enough to run it for you. Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition is the main thing, but you can find 3.5 all the way to 1st edition. There are still people who want to play any edition they want, and there'll be people who want to run it because they prefer that type of game. Gamers are greedy. We want to play the game we want to play, and there will be people who want to set it up for you. So yeah, for this Gen Con, like, always look up. You'll always be surprised. Another thing when setting up your schedule, Gen Con's so large, don't try to do everything. Like, I know there's so much to do. Like, my past experience with Gen Con is, alright, 1 year, I'm going to do these card games. I want to do these card games. I'm going to stay in the windowless room, and then come out when it's night, when it's like dead of the night. And then that'll be my Gen Con experience, because if you do the collectible card games, that's your experience. You're going to be in a room with no windows, and as soon as you leave that convention center, it's going to be night, and for next thing you know, 4 days have passed. Same thing with RPGs. So the next year I did RPGs. They eat up at least 4 hours of your time. So you're going to find that your days are going to be very limited. And as much as the things that you want to do, you have to remember, I'm still human, I can't time travel, I need to do some of these things, and then just hope I can do the other things the next year. Because there's always going to be a next year. Gen Con's not going to go away. You'll have time to do everything you want. Just not all in the same 4 days.
Just plan it well. That's all you
Plan it well.
do.
Plan it well. You can maximize your schedule. Just plan it well. Anyone?
All right, any other final thoughts, I guess? You know, we're getting around that time to start wrapping up. So any final thoughts on either out-of-print games or Gen Con as a whole?
I think we really covered everything at this point.
I did one thing that I'm not sure many people out there would think to do, but I know, like, Chris Vack, you were talking about how a couple of people were thinking about doing it for one of the games that we mentioned tonight, where if there is an out-of-print game and you love it and you have a community of people that love it, and whoop, whoop, sound of the police.
Whose house?
Coming for me. They won't get in. Don't worry. I got the door barred. I'm good to go.
But you could always reach out to the designer of an out-of-print game, because there was one out-of-print game that I absolutely loved the rules for, and it was a miniature game. It was called AE Bounty, and it was put out by Dark Sun Designs, and it never had a huge following, but I thought the rule set was really cool, and I thought the minis were really cool, so I reached out to the people who had the IP. You know, it's not hard with the internet. You can find the owners of these dead games, and you can reach out to them, and they actually a lot of the times will talk to you and will give you a direction of either where to find their products, or maybe they'll be willing to sell you the IP for dirt cheap, who knows. But there's always that option out there. I just wanted to, put it in people's minds that just because a game's no longer being published by the people who originally published them doesn't mean that you can't contact them, get in touch with them, and get either more info or see if anything could happen with the game.
There's always that conversation of, well, let's see, the game's out. Well, we should bring it back. Well, what can we do? And everybody has had that conversation with any of the out-of-print games that they played. And it's just, the reality may be easier than you think it is. But you never know until you try.
All right.
All right.
So on that note, this is Panda signing off. Anyone else?
This is Chups.
Let's see one.
Well, I already said my name the first time around. If they didn't care to notice, they're not going to care to remember me at this point.
Wow.
All right.
Yeah, well, you're not very memorable. But you know what is memorable? Our website. You can visit us at unorganizedplay.com. Check us out on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter. Twitter doesn't have many followers, so let's get that Twitter following up. Come on. I want to see that go up after this video airs. Leave some comments. We'll try and put in some of the descriptions that we promised. Jared will try and put some descriptions as we promised throughout this video. And anything you want to reach out. Tell us we suck. Tell us we're great. Tell us what you want us to talk about. We're here to listen. And
will we accept $5 for whatever request you do? Who knows?
Yes, that is a $5 bid.
I will make your Gen Con schedule for $5. So I realize only 4 of my fingers made it onto the screen there, but for $5.
So just like and subscribe, leave a comment, insult us, or proposition us. Who knows? Maybe we'll say yes.
I don't think that's legal.
No, that's definitely not legal. It's going to be edited out. That's editing.
We'll see. All right. Till then, good night.
Larry. Fuck Larry.